Tucker Carlson having an interview about for 2 hours with Ted Cruz. About 2 hours. And they talked about regime change in Iran. Well, I mean, he's not exactly inaccurate here. So, I don't know if I want to go through this full fucking interview, right? So, was regime change in Syria beneficial to the U.S.? I don't know if exactly was regime change done by the U.S. in terms of Syria. I would say that's more like a conclusion to the Civil War. I don't think the U.S. really did anything in order to facilitate regime change. Did they give like HTS was not U.S. backed; they were Turkey backed or Turkish backed. The people that the U.S. mostly supported in the area were the Kurds, but not really. And I don't know if they supported the SPD or the YPJ. I don't think they did. And I don't think they supported anyone in the south of Syria. And the HTS was purely fucking Turkey. That was all Turkey right there. So, it's not exactly accurate to say that the U.S. is currently what the U.S. did was the main catalyst, rather, for regime change in Syria. Not really. Like, you can make the argument that maybe, yeah, sure, but that essentially, maybe you make the argument that maybe the Russians are, more responsible for that or something. It's a little silly. Because we all know, Trump's position on fucking Syria during his first term is really whiff-waffly. He went in, he didn't, then he pulled out. Then he went back in, then he pulled out. It was a complete fucking shit show. Was the Iraq War a mistake? Why aren't U.S. politicians focused on fixing America's problems? I'm curious. Why don't we start from there?
Let me step back and let's talk regime change generally. I mentioned Syria. I also opposed the Iraq War. I think the Iraq War was a serious mistake. And we have a pattern, and going back to this binary of the interventionist and the isolationist. The interventionists advocate over and over again. There's a bad guy. There's a dictator who's doing bad things to his people. And they say, let's go topple him. And you have dictators in the Middle East who are killing radical Islamic terrorists. We come in and topple them. The radical Islamic terrorists take over. They start killing Americans. And mind you, how the heck does that help us? Saddam Hussein was a horrible human being. He murdered and tortured people. Unequivocally bad guy. But it got much worse after we toppled him. And you ended up having ISIS rise up. I mean, that was the cause of ISIS, was toppling Saddam Hussein. Same thing in Libya. You had Gaddafi, another horrible guy, that under Obama, we toppled him. And you ended up having radical Islamic warlords taking over. And so it's the question I asked in Syria, okay, well, what's the plan? And how is this good or bad for the United States? And so I don't think, with Iran, I view Iran as very different from Iraq.
But up to that point, you say we disagree. I don't hear really anything. I'm not quite sure what happened in Syria, but I don't know. So, right, but other than that, I don't hear anything. I disagree with that at all.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're in a complete agreement. I wonder, though, is there a successful regime change that
Yeah, so I explained already what happened very basically in Syria. HTS is Turkish-backed and Saudi Arabian-backed. I forgot to mention the Saudis. They are also mentioned that the Saudis do also back HTS, but that was purely Saudi Arabia and Turkey. They were the ones who ended up pushing through Assad when he was at his weakest position. They pushed through, pretty much blitzkrieg through the country, took over the capital, and ended up winning the Syrian civil war. And, well, Assad has, at this point, he's living in exile in Russia, so, yeah.
the United States supported that you're aware of in the last 100 years?
Sure, defeating the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union collapsing, winning the Cold War. That was the most consequential step for U.S. national security interests of our lifetimes.
Okay.
And
so you classify that as a regime change that we affected?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Look, you and I are in my office. We're sitting next to a painting of...
In what way exactly did the U.S. have anything to do with regime change in the Soviet Union? No. The internal contradictions of the Soviet Union was what caused the collapse of the Soviet Union. Not anything that in particular the U.S. did. It's silly.
Of Reagan in front of the Brandenburg Gate. And up top are the words, tear down this wall, in German, in the style of the graffiti.
Right.
And I think those are the most important words any leader has said in modern times. And if you look at how Reagan waged the Cold War, and Reagan is very much my model for how to... I actually think how Reagan took on the Soviet Union is exactly how we should take on China. Now, starting from the point, look, Reagan was not an interventionist. In 8 years, the biggest country Reagan ever invaded was Grenada. He was very reluctant to use U.S. military force.
He didn't respond after the 83 barracks bombing.
You're right.
Iran-Contra would like to... the Iran-Contra situation immediately pops its head up, says, "Hi, hello, what's up?" We're not gonna mention Iran-Contra. That happened under Reagan, my friends. So, okay, nice meeting.
He made the judgment that the risk exceeded the benefits, and that's a very rational decision to make. And it's reflected. Trump has made those same decisions where he is willing to use military force, but he very much asks, okay, is this good or bad for America? Does this endanger U.S. servicemen and women or not? And one of the points about the Cold War, look, nobody in their right mind wanted a shooting war between America and the Soviet Union. The two biggest nuclear powers on Earth firing bullets at each other is really unhealthy for human beings. Same thing's true with China. Nobody with any sense says, hey, let's go to war with China. That's really dumb, and a whole lot of people could die. But the Cold War showed we got lots of tools short of sending the Marines to fight against a regime. And one of the most important tools is the bully pulpit. And so when I say I support regime change, I actually think just simply laying out what the Ayatollah does. And so I spend a lot of time, I speak to Iranian dissident groups, I speak out against human rights abuses. I think shining a light on the depravity of leaders is a really powerful tool that America has.
Okay, this very often rings hollow coming from American leaders because they're supporting wholeheartedly the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. Like, it rings rather fucking hollow. You're not going to make an effective argument to the populace of the Iranians in terms of being able to wield the bully pulpit as a weapon. It's going to ring rather hollow because of, well, what the actions of Israel is doing. So that's going to be pretty fucking hollow, Ted Cruz.
Should we limit our activity to that?
It depends. Again,
because the U.S. government pays opposition groups, militarized opposition groups in Iran to overthrow the government. We've done in a lot of different places, as you know. I'm not saying it's bad, but that's very different from what you're describing. You're saying we're making moral cases. We did for 7 years with the Soviets. Our system works. Yours doesn't.
Yep.
And I think we made a credible case for that. And we beat them over 70 years economically.
And that was a huge part of it.
Right. I think everyone agreed that was the main part of it. We didn't beat them in Vietnam, North Korea.
The main part of it was tied to a military buildup. So I think it was two things. It was one, the clarity. So Reagan came in, and he described the Soviet Union as an evil empire.
Right.
And all of the intelligentsia in D.C., all the Democrats, all the media, they're like, what a horrible thing to say. You can't say that. Reagan went to the United Kingdom and he said...
Did they say that? All the intelligent... Really? I don't think they disagreed with Reagan on that one. I don't think so. Reagan was bad for a lot of other reasons, okay? I don't think like the Democrats were their main problem was saying that Reagan is bad for saying that the Soviet Union is evil or whatever. Like no? This seems very fucking silly.
Marxism, Leninism will end up on the ash heap of history. People were horrified. They asked him, all right, what's your strategy in the Cold War? He said, very simple. We win, they lose. And it was all viewed as sort of a Philistine simplicity. And I think it was exactly right in laying that out, speaking. Do you know the backstory behind the Berlin Wall speech?
Yeah, I do. Yes.
You probably know Peter Robinson, who was the speechwriter.
Yes.
So 3 times the State Department deleted those words from that speech. And 3 times Reagan wrote it back. And the State Department argued, they said, Mr. President, you can't say this. This is too bellicose, this is too provocative. And my favorite, they said, this is too unrealistic. The Berlin Wall will stand to the end of time. And Reagan said, look, this is the whole point of the speech. And less than 3 years after Reagan gave that speech, the Berlin Wall was torn to the ground. And it wasn't knocked down by American Army tanks. We didn't shoot missiles at it. It was shining truth and light that tore it down. It was also...
That's not the reason why. Again, so this is a bit of historical revisionism. Reagan didn't really have much to do at all with fucking the collapse of the Soviet Union. The collapse of the Soviet Union was inevitable due to the internal contradictions of the Soviet Union. The economy was basically inevitably going to collapse. Before the fucking sort of the main people in power, the old guard realized that this was the case, which is why I argue that Marxism, Leninism, and capitalism are very often like super similar. Why I call it basically state capitalism, for example. The reason is because eventually it was recognized that the economy was globalizing. Everyone else was beginning to interdependently trade with one another. Every fucking region centered around the US, right? The Soviet Union, under Gorbachev at this point, he realized, like, okay, if we don't literally do anything about this, if we don't try to participate in the global markets and do, like, some kind of significant heavy reform, the economy is going to collapse in on itself. Because what was the Soviet Union mostly doing, spending with, like, a lot of their sort of, like, fiscal budgets? They were spending a lot of money on mostly the military and military research, primarily speaking. Like, the space program was partially to compete with capitalist powers, but was also for military purposes. You can make the same argument for also the U.S. It's not really much different there, but a lot of other stuff, other inventions came out from, well, the race to the moon as a result of that. And mostly it's been mostly just American products, right, that broadly speaking that everyone sort of uses. Now you can make the same argument that happened the same thing in the Soviet Union, the tomato, potato, whatever. Like, you can, like, shit like that can be fucking quibbled about, okay? I don't necessarily know 100% what the fucking, the 100% all of the side inventions that happened because of their 2 space programs, because they invested a lot in science. But primarily speaking, the purpose of those was militarily focused, based on for military engagement, first and foremost. Don't get it fucking twisted, okay? That's why they both ended up participating in the space race. The reason why, and because of the amount of money that the Russians were spending not only on the space race, but also for their military expenditures, the economy was collapsing in on itself. So they tried to compensate by doing military adventurism. First was Czechoslovakia, right, in 1956. They went in, they invaded, they took over the country, integrated into the Soviet Union, into the Warsaw Pact. And then, most importantly, they did the invasion of Afghanistan in the 80s. Now, obviously, CIA intervening, giving weapons to the Mujahideen in order for them to be more effectively fight against the Soviet Union. But economically speaking, it was a disaster for the Soviets. And that was what pretty much guaranteed the collapse. The internal contradictions of the system of the that the Soviets had set up immediately was starting to show because of Afghanistan. And because of that, the collapse was more or less inevitable at that point. It was going to happen. It was just a matter of if or when, not if. Gorbachev recognized that and said, we need to do radical reforms to sort of try to stem the bleeding. I think it is probably too late anyways to try to do anything, but I'm fucking premier, goddammit. I have to do something. And who resisted? The old guard of the Soviet Union. The people who understood that they were the ones who wanted to maintain more power and control under themselves. Again, the same argument that I have made. The purpose of vanguardism is about establishing of a fucking hierarchy. Different form in terms of private ownership of the means of production. Instead, it became state fucking bureaucrats because they also ended up being the ones who had controlled the means of production. Again, maintenance of hierarchy and control. A lot of fucking beliefs within the ideology of Marxism-Leninism and its offshoots are highly patriarchal and hierarchical. Very, very much so. But, you know, those contradictions inevitably fucking made it collapse. So, like I said before, just like how it is with fucking these, with capitalist entities, all about maintenance and hierarchy control, same it was with the fucking Soviets.
Rebuilding the American military, it was what was then pejoratively called Star Wars, where the Soviet Union, their economy couldn't match their military buildup and it bankrupted them. That's an example of peace through strength.
I wonder, is there anybody who was alive in 1989 who wouldn't trade that America for the one we live in now? There's not one person, I don't think.
Oh, sure.
But, just the basic metrics, debt, suicide rate, life expectancy. I wonder why, after that victory, America didn't thrive in the way that we thought that it would, that I thought that it would. My family was involved in that. We were very focused on it in my house. And it won. And I wonder two things. Why didn't the United States kind of declare victory and make some sort of arrangement with Russia that allowed mutual prosperity rather than continuing a Cold War? And second, I wonder why the United
That's actually not a terrible question there by Tucker Carlson. I do overall sort of agree that the Russians should have been more integrated within the world economy instead of shock therapy and then the country just basically getting raped. But sure, whatever.
United States didn't get a lot better. Why don't we have better infrastructure? Why don't we have fewer homeless? Why do we have all these drugs? If we won, why does our country look like this? I walked across from Union Station this morning, as you do, I'm sure, every day. And those people lying in the streets, sleeping outside. It's what is that? We're sorry to say it, but this is not a very safe country. Walk through Oakland or Philadelphia. Yeah. The dangers of Iran.
I think they're cultural things. The loss of faith,
I agree with all of
family.
I know what you're going to say, and I agree 100%. But there's not one word that I would disagree with. All I'm saying is, I think it's important to step back and ask.
Actually, Russia has very little to do with it. So,
well, that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make, which is we're all sort of focused on beating our adversaries abroad, but what is victory worth if our own country becomes what it is now? And maybe we're spending a little too much time focused abroad and not enough time focused on the people sleeping outside Union Station.
So here's the 3IQ fucking isolationism bullshit coming here from Tucker Carlson. That's not the fucking problem. The problem is the bourgeoisie have control of, a lot of money. You are also using this as a way to deflect from Russia holding any culpability in terms of what they do also on the world stage because you are paid by the Russians. So, cool, great, fantastic. It's all fucking faux, fake populism bullshit. I think I might just want to get through this particular segment. How much money is it? I don't care about that bit. Spy in America, I don't care about that bit. And then we're going to get to the AIPAC bit, I think, next.
So, look, I absolutely think we need to focus at home, emphatically, and we need to focus on prosperity, we need to focus on reducing the debt, reducing spending, empowering people, low taxes, small businesses. American free enterprise is the most powerful force for fighting poverty the world has ever seen.
Well, the current bill that's supposed to try to push for that is gonna, cut taxes for the fucking rich and blow up the deficit and the debt and make material conditions worse for everyone. But, whatever. The Republican, none of these people actually believe in any of this stuff, so whatever.
1,000% there. I also recognize it is a dangerous world. And part of the responsibility of leaders, part of President Trump's responsibility, is to keep America safe. But let's go back to where we started.
But can I ask, you've been in the district a long time in D.C., so have I. And the city's way more dangerous, and Congress runs the city.
It's a complete crap hole.
So I'm saying, like, no Iranian's ever going to kill me. I could get carjacked here. Well, I just don't understand how the Congress could run the city and focus on the dangers of Iran when the city is like garbage. It's garbage.
But Congress doesn't run the city. We could.
Congress does run the city. It's in the Constitution.
It's in the Constitution. But
I do find it very funny that this man is being very adversarial, you know? It has to take this fucking complete charlatan, Tucker Carlson, to be a charlatan. The consequences of fucking privatized, commodified media. Let's go. They only care about their fucking access, because if they don't have their fucking access, they're not going to be able to make money and get ratings. Woo.
Given home rule, so it's a Democrat.
You control Congress.
I vote for it, but it is a question of math.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, why? How can people ignore? It's like, if my own kids are drug addicts, but I'm focused on my neighbor's kids, it's like I'm neglecting my own kids. And there's a sense in which the Congress is neglecting the country that elected them in favor of this relentless focus on other people's problems. That's the way it feels as an American.
Look, there are lots of problems in America that we need to fix. Why is D.C. a pit? Because you have a mayor and a Democrat city council that won't let police officers arrest bad guys. And in every city you see across the country.
Yeah, totally. Like, it's because of the Democrats or something. Like, it's stupid. Just throw all the undesirables in jail, and that'll make the problem magically go away. Sure, Ted Cruz. Whatever.
It's New York, whether it's Chicago, whether it's LA, whether it's San Francisco. If you have Democrats, we see the LA riots, where they won't let people be arrested. All right,
then why not work on regime change here? Why not use the bully pulpit?
What do you think I do every day?
Why not see a Republican senator stand up and say, I just walked to work this...
Well, that's gonna literally make the protests fucking worse. like, that's gonna make them spread even further, because, again, they're protests, they're not riots, but of course, like... These people they're not actually fucking anti-war. They're pro-civil war. They just don't want to have war with, like, other people because they're, like, dirty browns, and they'll fucking cause refugee crises and have a bunch of immigrants spread around. That's the only reason why they're against the Iran war.
This morning over people dying of drug disease, we're going to shut this place down unless they fix it. They're mad about Putin. Like, what did Putin do to Washington? Nothing.
Look, in terms of regime change, let's talk this week. The riots in LA, I made very clear that the cause of those riots are Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. And when you elect communists who hate America, who stop law enforcement from arresting...
Yeah, known communists, Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom. Sure, man.
Criminals, you get what you get on the street.
Man, I agree.
My in-laws are Californians, and they're wonderful people. Heidi grew up in the Central Coast of California. I remember I was texting with my mother-in-law, and I think I sent her a video of criminals going to a store and just looting in California. And her response, she said something like, well, this is really terrible. I wish we could. It's a shame we can't do anything about this. So yes, you can. Go in and arrest them. Throw their butts in jail. Put them in handcuffs. And it stops.
Exactly.
Well, no, there's a law in California that says, like, if you steal up to a particular threshold, whatever. It's a bullshit fucking law. But again, what are most of the things that people are stealing? Why are people stealing? Conservatives are never going to fucking focus on the root causes and the root basis of these issues. It's because of fucking poverty, stupid. You guys are the ones currently agreeing on fucking cutting more taxes for the rich and the billionaires and not actually addressing the problem, and that is people can't fucking afford basic necessities. But again, you know, Ted Cruz, do you think he gives a fuck about any of that shit? No. Does Tucker Carlson give a fuck about any of that shit? No. Another thing is that why are the fucking protests in LA happening again? Crazy. LA is a sanctuary city, and what ICE is doing there is illegal. Yeah.
So we know how to fix these things, and D.C. is I think D.C. voted, if I remember right, 92% Democrat. Democrat policies don't work, and they destroy every community that they are in charge of.
Why don't Republicans assert their constitutional authority over the city? Don't they control the Congress?
Yes, I'd be all for it.
Who's against it?
Susan Collins is really vocally against it. So in questions of home rule, so for example, let's take an issue you and I care a lot about, the COVID lockdowns. I had a couple of years ago in the middle of them. D.C. the D.C. school district was proposing throwing out of school any child that was not vaccinated. And at the time, if I remember correctly, it was something like 40% of the African-American students in D.C. were not vaccinated. So we're talking about literally throwing out 40% of the kids in public school. And so I had a vote on the Senate floor to say, look, they can't throw kids out of school for this. And we ended up having a big argument, and part of the argument was home rule, where and Susan was the most vocal Republican. It's like, no, we have to let D.C. run. And I'm like, why? Constitution gives us the power to do it. And it ended up, by the way, every single Democrat, all of them, voted in favor of the D.C. public schools being able to throw out 40% of the black kids from school. And I said, look, you throw a kid out of school.
I love how Ted Cruz is doing the fucking wokey fucking argument. Like, dude, they're fucking unvaccinated, probably because either A, a lot of probably policies that Republicans have, very often, and there's historical precedent for this, black people are going to have like a little trust of vaccination programs because, again, those have been used to sterilize them in the past, quite literally. So there's historical precedent for as to why black people probably do not trust mass vaccination fucking programs, but also because of, well, you know, that shit's fucking expensive. Let's be honest here. And a lot of people are fucking poor in DC. That's why. So, you know, even if we're assuming what Ted Cruz is fucking saying is correct, he is a perpetual liar, of course.
Oh, you got a 14, 15-year-old boy, you throw him out of school. You know what's going to happen next. He's going to join a gang. He's going to engage in crimes. He's going to engage in drugs. He could be dead within 5 years if that kid doesn't get an education. And the Democrats are more than happy to say, we don't care. Right now, our religion is get the vaccine or to hell with you.
But can you see, I mean, again.
Because the point of getting the fucking vaccine is because it makes the society safe. And that's why all of these fucking problems are fixed if you get the fucking vaccine. That's the point. That's why they're saying get the vaccine. It's like, just get the fucking vaccine. It's safe. It's stupid.
Again, once again, I couldn't agree with you more, but can you feel the frustration of people, including your voters, every American, at the emphasis on foreign countries and the threat we supposedly face, a lot of which is fake, obviously, over the kind of slowly unfolding tragedy of what's happening to our country? The dollars spent, the aid packages to Ukraine to pay the retirement of civil servants in a country that we have nothing to do with, the endless support for Israel, very expensive, when people are literally buying groceries on credit in the United States. Can you feel like it's nothing against Ukraine or Israel?
All right, let's stop. You said the support for Israel. The question,
Care about that.
Israel spies on us. Well, so does every other country. Why are you mad at Israel?
I guess, no, I'm hardly the one. So I've never taken money from the Israel lobby. Have you?
Taking money from the Israel
AIPAC.
So AIPAC raises a lot of money for me, but it's actually a misnomer because the people who raise money are individuals. So it's not the PAC itself, but they're individual members who believe in the American-Israeli friendship.
Is AIPAC a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the AIPAC stands for the America-Israeli Political Action.
What does it lobby for?
So, to be honest, not a whole lot effectively. Listen, I came into Congress.
Time for the schizos to come up with all their fucking goddamn anti fucking Semitic conspiracy theories. So far, if we're doing the highly fucking technical argument, Ted Cruz is correct here. AIPAC is an American political action committee. It is an American it is an American lobbying group that basically advocates for pro-Israeli positions, right? That doesn't mean it's foreign. It was founded in America by American Zionists. Like a lot of evangelicals, for example, are a part of AIPAC, for example. To say that they all do the sort of bidding of Israel is not exactly fucking accurate. Now, I don't want this to be a defense of fucking AIPAC. I don't like AIPAC, obviously. They are advocating for wretched and horrible positions. I am simply saying that is AIPAC a foreign organization that does the bidding of a foreign entity? As far as we know, and as far as any form of oversight that has gone into this, the answer to that question is no. Now, obviously, you can quibble about, like, that's obviously not really the case. Like, no, duh. We all know that they advocate for pro-Israeli positions. But the thing is, the problem is that, well, considering the fact that America is as pro-Israel as it is, well, of course there's going to be fucking dumbass fucking political action committees and positions that are cultivated as a result of how pro-Israel America, broadly speaking, is. And there's complicated reasonings for as to why America is as pro-Israel as it is. Whether it be like military-industrial complex shit, whether it be like a bunch of other fucking bullshit, we know why, right? In reality, the root cause and root basis of all of this, it's all pro-MIC shit. That's what it fucking is.
13 years ago, with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate. I've worked every day to do that. AIPAC, a lot of times, AIPAC, I wish were much more effective. Like, they're focused on online, we're a fear swamp of terrified of AIPAC, and AIPAC...
I'm not terrified of AIPAC at all.
I mean, again, hey, AIPAC has been directly responsible for the ousting of 2 progressive lawmakers within the Congress of the United States of America, that being Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman. 2 members of the squad, I believe, were ousted because of fucking AIPAC. Now, hopefully, when the midterms come around, they're able to get their seats back and beat back AIPAC and the 2 stooges that were fucking installed because of them. So that's, cool, great, fantastic. Because we know they got a bunch of AIPAC money. So Ted Cruz is not exactly accurate here when he's saying that AIPAC is not very effective. No. AIPAC is quite effective, mostly against, people who are anti-Zionist, like Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush. They're not going to really care as much about Republicans because they know that overall Republicans are going to step mostly in line with, the Zionist goals. In terms of people who receive AIPAC money, it's significantly more Republicans that receive AIPAC money in comparison to Democrats. That's probably the easiest call in the fucking universe. So.
When it's a little uncomfortable, I'm asking.
No, not uncomfortable.
I'm just asking what AIPAC does. My understanding, having known a lot of people like AIPAC, is that it lobbies on behalf of the Israeli government.
Wrong.
Oh, okay. America has thousands of colleges and universities.
Ted Cruz is correct there, yeah. They do not lobby on behalf of the fucking goddamn, Israeli government. Okay, I don't care about, like, your stupid fucking ad. Go away. No ads.
That deviated from premise Netanyahu.
All the time.
Anyone.
Okay, let me go back and do a little history. You want to do a deep dive on AIPAC?
I don't. I want to do a shallow dive.
No,
I want to get to the core question. AIPAC is lobbying for a foreign government. And I don't. It's not. It's lobbying for the United States.
It is lobbying for a strong U.S.-Israeli relationship.
Okay.
And
so it's not has nothing to do with foreign government.
It wants America and Israel to be closely allied.
Okay, but it's
Again, the thing is that Ted Cruz, because he's as Weasley as it is, and being as avoidant as it is, and it's making Tucker Carlson look very strong and pressing on the issue, Ted Cruz is technically correct here. The America-Israel Political Action Committee, which is AIPAC, do advocate for Israeli interests. But that doesn't mean that it is an Israeli organization. Tucker Carlson is trying to argue that it is an Israeli organization and that it advocates for Israeli interests. Not technically speaking, right? It's a very fucking tight rope that AIPAC is doing in terms of its advocacy. Technically speaking, Ted Cruz, what he's saying is correct here. And that the only thing that AIPAC does is advocate for American and Israeli relationships to be strong. Obviously, that sort of has the byproduct and effect of pushing forward the interests of the Israeli government. But if we are technically speaking, you can also make a pro-military industrial complex sort of argument, and that would also be pushing American-Israeli fucking interests. Now, I don't know if AIPAC has done that in particular. If, I don't know, Ted Cruz were, I don't know, smarter, maybe? I'm not sure. He's quite rhetorically proficient. I don't think he's, like, stupid per se, but, like, Yeah, not stupid per se. Maybe he doesn't think that that is a particular line of argumentation that AIPAC pushes. Again, we all know the sort of like common through line for as to why AIPAC sort of exists. It's not because of like Israel. It's all like pro-MIC fucking bullshit. That's the real sort of like kicker there, because we all know why is AIPAC and Israel, why do they like the Americans so much? They want those fucking American weapons, baby. That's what they mostly want.
Lobbying on behalf of the interests of another country.
So that's not true at all. And
it's not true.
No.
How much contact do you think AIPAC leaders have with the government of Israel?
No idea. I imagine some. I think the government of Israel is often frustrated with AIPAC.
Do you think there's
not nearly strong enough?
Do you think there's any coordination between the government of Israel and AIPAC?
Do they talk? Sure. If you're lobbying for more U.S.-Mexico trade, would you talk to people in the U.S. and Mexico government? Sure. Like if.
So I'm not mad about that. There are a million countries that lobby Washington. I like a lot of those countries, including
Israel. But AIPAC are Americans.
But hold on. There are tons of Americans who lobby on behalf of foreign governments. I know them. I'm related to some of them. I know how it works. I'm from here. So my question is not, is it outrageous that foreign governments lobby the United States? They all do. Okay, including Israel.
So far, like with Ted Cruz being as avoidant on the questions that he is, like it's going to fuel a lot of like dumbass schizophrenics and conspiracy theories. That's the fucking problem that's mostly going on here. Even though Ted Cruz, technically speaking, isn't really wrong here. He's not exactly incorrect here.
My question is, why don't we admit that is what's happening? You're denying it, but it's true.
Yeah, but what you're saying is false.
Why aren't they registered as a foreign lobby?
Because they're not.
They're not a foreign lobby.
No, they're not. And there's a fever swamp. Look,
it's not a fever swamp. These are very reasonable questions, and you've accused me of being obsessed with Israel, which I'm not.
I actually haven't.
And I'm being feverish about it, which I'm not at all. I find it's a very tender spot when you ask it.
Because here's the thing, yeah, Tucker Carlson is also correct here, right? It is a feverish spot. It is. But Ted Cruz is also technically correct in saying that AIPAC is not a fucking foreign lobbying entity. It's not. It is an American entity that lobbies on... Like, there's also, like, lobbies for, like, pro-Israeli positions, right? And in the example that Ted Cruz gave, it's like there are lobbies that lobby for pro-Mexican positions. There are lobbies that lobby for pro-Turkish positions. Here's a perfect fucking example. Eric fucking Adams. Eric Adams, quite literally, took a bunch of money from Turkish fucking lobbies. It was illegal, obviously, but these are Americans that were, advocating for pro-Turkish fucking positions, quite literally. Now, some of them were probably foreign agents that weren't registered as foreign agents, and Eric Adams accepting money from those people was more than likely illegal. However, a lot of those fucking lobbyists in there were Americans that were advocating for pro-Turkish positions. Overall, it's like the biggest problem here that you need to point to is the fact that like this dumbass fucking system exists to begin with, where this complete fucking idiotic nonsense can, sort of catalyze, be further, and get, like, more stupid, to be honest. Like, we all know exactly what's, like, fucking going on here, right? Like, what Ted Cruz is technically speaking, saying here is correct, but a lot of the questions that Tucker Carlson is also raising is also correct, and Ted Cruz being as avoidant on the questions as he is being is not making him look good in particular. However, Tucker, when we get to the part where you talk about Russia-Ukraine, well, you don't do particularly well yourself there, unfortunately, because we should know this motherfucker is a stooge for the Russians. You're not above fucking board either, Tucker Carlson. You're not any better than Ted Cruz is with Israel.
And I don't know why.
So, Tucker, all right, let's go back. I was first elected to the Senate in 2012. I came in Obama's second term. And I actually saw AIPAC be badly wounded in a way they never came back from. And the second term is when Obama did the Iran nuclear deal. And the Iran nuclear deal, I think, was catastrophic. And AIPAC went all in lobbying against it.
Yeah.
And they failed. And I was the leading opponent of the Iran nuclear
deal. Oh, I know. They definitely failed, yes.
They failed. And what happened, the Obama White House told every Democrat, when I got here, there used to be real bipartisan support for Israel. That has largely disappeared. And it's the Obama nuclear deal that caused it, because the Obama White House told every Democrat, pick. You either stand with Israel, or you're a Democrat and you stand with the Obama White House. And almost
yeah, that's not true, by the way. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, Joe Biden is very pro-Israel. What the fuck? He just let, like, Benjamin Netanyahu do whatever he wanted in fucking Gaza for, like, a year and a half, dude. What the fuck are you talking? Whatever.
Every single Democrat member of Congress said, I'm a Democrat first, to hell with Israel. And then I watched as AIPAC, every one of those Democrats got reelected, and AIPAC did nothing about it. And it dramatically reduced AIPAC's influence.
I agree. I watched it happen.
And by the way, I told AIPAC, I said, look, the analogy, if the NRA was supporting a bunch of politicians that cared about the Second Amendment, and you had politicians that vote to confiscate people's guns, and the NRA turned around and raised money for the people who voted to confiscate guns, you know what? No one would ever care what they said again.
So you're making the case that AIPAC is not as powerful as people say it is, and I completely agree with you. I've watched that, and I'm not making the case that AIPAC is all powerful and they're running everything and putting Floyd in the water. I'm not making the case at all, because that's not true. I'm only trying to get to the question of what AIPAC is, and I don't think you're being straightforward about it. AIPAC is lobbying on behalf of the interests of a foreign country, and they're not registered, and you're saying that's not true. You're saying that they don't coordinate with the Israeli government.
I coordinate. They talk with them. I don't know what they do. I can
but
tell
why don't you care? Isn't it meaningful if a foreign government...
God, this is gonna fuel so many fucking idiotic anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, because again, like, what he's saying isn't technically wrong here. The problem is like, there are lobbying entities that are American that will lobby for other countries' interests, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are a foreign lobby. Like, it's really fucking weird, but that's like the fucking ideological through line that AIPAC fucking operates under.
With Israel all the time.
Of course you do. All the time. But the law is, and a lot of people have prosecuted this law, that if you are lobbying on behalf of a foreign government, you must register. That's it. It's really simple. And I don't know why, if I'm working for Malaysia or Qatar or Belgium, and I'm working on behalf of its government's interests through a group of Americans who are representing the friendship between those two nations, I have to register under the Foreign Agent Registration Act. And if I don't, I can go to jail. People have gone to jail. People I know. So I don't understand why we don't just be honest and say they're lobbying on behalf of a foreign government, they're coordinating with the government. You know that that's true.
Because like I've said before, the through line is fairly obvious. The reason why probably this is the case, again, it's because of the military-industrial complex. That's the common factor that neither of these motherfuckers are ever going to address, because they're okay with the military-industrial complex in existence. In terms of like who benefits the most from that, Tucker Carlson would do like the isolationist LARP bullshit or some shit, and Ted Cruz would be a neoconservative and say like, okay, I mean, if it's not Israel, then some other country that we can, I don't know, soy out over or some shit. You know, whatever.
True. That is not only not true, that is false.
They're not coordinating.
Do you know how AIPAC raises money? For elected officials, like what they do, like what the actual mechanics is?
Yeah, I mean, they go to people who are sympathetic to Israel and raise money and then send it to candidates who agree with them.
So what they'll do is, so in my last election, AIPAC endorsed me, and they'll host a fundraiser. And they'll host a fundraiser in Dallas or Houston or Atlanta or New York or LA. And they'll do a fundraiser and they'll get someone who hosts it, and it's usually a business owner, lawyer, doctor, someone who hosts it. And you'll get typically an AIPAC fundraiser, 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 people who live in that city,
right?
Who care about a strong U.S.-Israel relationship. Yeah. And if they have 50 people, each one writes a $1,000 check, and you raise $50,000.
Yeah, I've been to an AIPAC fundraiser. I know what it looks like.
But that is not, and by the way, there's no representative of the Israeli government there. You have when you're in Dallas, you're meeting with...
false and silly conversation. I know all this. The question is are AIPAC's goals shaped by the goals of the Israeli government to any extent?
Okay, that's really simple from lobbying on behalf of.
It's a simple question. Are AIPAC's goals shaped by the goals of the Israeli government? And I'm just going to ask you a question straightforward. And if you say no, I think we both know that's not true.
Hey, are they shaped by? Are
they coordinating with the Israeli government?
Are they talking with them? Yes. Israeli government directing them. What, you want to talk about FARA? The law on lobbying on behalf of someone is I hire you and you lobby on behalf of me. I direct you. Does Israel direct AIPAC? No, they're not lobbying on behalf of them. Do they care about them? Yes, but
do you think that it's just interesting because what you're now describing in a very defensive way, I will say, is foreign influence over our politics?
No.
And you began, and it's so transparently obvious to everybody. I don't know why you'd be embarrassed of it. You said that you were sincerely for Israel. I believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to be sincere.
By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing. the obsession with Israel. We're talking about foreign countries.
hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question, what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, I'm an anti-Semite now. Senator,
You're asking the question, Tucker. You're asking, why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
That's what you just
I am
asked.
hardly saying that. And I have...
That is exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself. I can tell you what I am saying. On behalf not simply myself, but on my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions, which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy feline way implying it, or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with foreign governments.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews.
You said, I'm asking
By the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy feline. So let's see.
Like, Tucker Carlson has kind of caught him there. What Ted Cruz is doing there is fucking dishonest. Quite literally. Which is why I'm saying, like, that, God, this is gonna fucking fuel so many, like, idiotic fucking goddamn conspiracy theories and shit like that. But, yeah, you know, whatever. The very cool, very good. But, because Tucker Carlson's not honest when he's doing any of this. He's hypocritical. Because, again, we're like, this section right here is where Tucker Carlson is, whoa, crazy. Well, advocating for Russian interests. Because he takes a bunch of Russian money, like he does. So, you know, nice meme.
It's easy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer, give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
I'm in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are on the brink of war with Iran, and so these are valid questions.
But you're
you
not
just
asking about
if I can finish. You asked me why I'm obsessed with Israel.
Yep.
3 minutes after telling me that when you first ran for Congress, you elucidated one of your main goals, which is to defend Israel.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period. Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from. So that's my position. That's not making me an anti-Semite. And shame on you for suggesting otherwise, and I mean that. And that's low, and you know it's low. So why don't you just answer my questions in a straightforward, rational way? You certainly have the IQ to do it.
So, shame on you is cute, by the way, Tucker.
It is. It's not cute. I'm offended. I'm obsessed with the Jews. You just told me.
You just called me a sleazy feline.
It is sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite for asking questions about how my government
You
is
want to count
run.
how many questions you asked about? What about the Jews? What about Israel? What about
You never asked about the Jews. I have. This has nothing to do with the Jews, whatever that means. This has to do with a foreign government. And once again, shame on you for conflating the two. They have nothing to do with each other. I'm talking about the influence
Israel
of
and Jews have nothing to do with each other.
All Jews or an attack on all Jews, which I am not, nor would I ever be undertaking. Now, I'm not attacking anybody.
By the way, that's who Iran wants to kill, is all the Jews and all the Americans.
And I'm totally opposed to that, okay? But now, because...
Like, again, like, Ted Cruz has put himself in a fucking trap here. Tucker Carlson's got him by the fucking balls right now. Quite literally. Like, this is fucking true, but it's all fucking hollow bullshit. It's because, again, Tucker Carlson, who is his fucking audience? Well, Nazis. Who is Ted Cruz's fucking audience? Evangelical Christians. Like, that's the fucking problem here. Like, it's hollow when it comes from both of these motherfuckers.
Specific decisions need to be made.
We can talk about those decisions.
And I plan to.
Good.
But I just want to get a sense of whether you think, having described yourself as an America First person whose only criterion for judgment of foreign policy is America's national interest, to what extent you're influenced by foreign government, which gives you a lot of money through its lobby, and you're claiming this has nothing to do with foreign government. They're not coordinating yes or spying on us, it doesn't bother you. And I'm sort of wondering, like, what is this? This is one of the weirdest conversations I've ever had.
I'll tell you what, and I'll answer any question you like, but let's try to...
It's really difficult to come up with, like, ideological through points because, again, what Ted Cruz is essentially trying to defend is, like, an incoherent fucking position. I probably should have, like, started with this, by the way. What Ted Cruz is saying, and the reason why he's having trouble defending this position, even though technically speaking he is correct here in terms of what AIPAC does as a lobby, it is Americans advocating for the interests of Israel. Do they coordinate at all with the Israeli government? As far as we know, no. But they advocate constantly for their fucking interests. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are a foreign asset or agent representing Israel. They can be Americans genuinely representing Israeli interests. With the example I brought up earlier with Eric Adams and all the Turkish lobby money that he fucking got being a pretty much perfect example there. Some of them were actual foreign agents. A bunch of them weren't. And were genuinely advocating for Turkish, well, interests to Eric Adams. Right? That's not fucking ridiculous to say. However, with how fucking weaselly fucking Ted Cruz is being about all this, it can make it such that Tucker Carlson can very easily ask a lot of questions to sort of like prod and pry at what Ted Cruz fucking ultimately believes in.
Are you going to call me an anti-Semite again or no?
Let's try to ratchet down the temperature a little.
You're the one who went to motive. I'm asking honest questions.
I'm
just asking questions. Yes, that is what I'm doing.
Let's try to ratchet down the temperature a little bit.
Okay. Picture the house of your dreams. Maybe it's got an outdoor pool.
I don't give a shit. Shut up. And he gets a lot of paid sponsorships.
It's a great movie. It's actually a fun comedy about politics. And Eddie Murphy in the movie is a con man who gets elected to Congress. And he's literally a con man who, the congressman dies, he has the same name, and so he runs and they get elected. And let's get into Iran momentarily. But you suggested it was a strange thing that I said a minute ago, that when I came into the Senate, I resolved that I was going to be a leading defender of Israel. And what you didn't ask is why. So let me tell you why.
No, you said I was obsessed with Israel, and you had just told me that like your driving motive to get to the Senate was to defend Israel. I don't think I'm obsessed with Israel.
Okay, so Tucker, words matter.
Uh-huh.
And you know that. I said I resolved to be the leading defender of Israel. And you said your driving motive, the reason you're in the Senate.
You want to be the leading defender of Israel? I would think if I ran for Senate, I'd be like, there are people dying of drug abuse on the street.
My driving motive is to fight for Texas and America, and to fight for jobs, and to fight for the Constitution. And you played a very, very careful word game of a lie.
I'm the one who said it, not me.
So you still haven't asked why, but I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
And the reason is twofold. Number one, as a Christian, growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I'm going to be on the blessing side of things.
Those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of it, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my... You pull out the phone and use it.
It's in Genesis. But so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it. You don't know where the Bible is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker.
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two...
Hold on. Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology.
Again, like religion of Israel, people of Israel. This is all like stupid fucking like word game fucking bullshit. Probably more than like, I mean, Boy Meets Minnie isn't here, so I can't ask him questions about like the scripture. But more than likely, no one is probably being honest here in terms of like use of fucking scripture. I could care less about any of that fucking bullshit.
And I'm a Christian. I'm allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel.
We are commanded to support Israel, and we're
What does that mean,
we're
Israel?
told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis. That's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
And so is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel.
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation God?
Yeah, the nation state is a concept that didn't exist back then. Ted Cruz is inaccurate here, but
referring to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes,
it is. Okay.
And by the way, it's not run by Benjamin Netanyahu, who's a dictator. It's a Democratic country that elected.
He's the prime minister.
Right. But just like America is the country run by Donald Trump. No, actually, the American people elected Donald Trump. The same principles.
This is silly. I'm talking about the political entity of modern Israel.
Yes, and that is.
You believe that's what God was talking about in Genesis?
I do. But
that country's existed since when?
For thousands of years. Now there was a time when it didn't exist, and then was recreated just over 70 years.
But I'm saying, I think most people understand that line in Genesis to refer to the Jewish people, God's chosen people.
That's not what it says.
Okay, Israel, but you don't even know where in the Bible it is. So I
don't remember the scriptural citation. But okay, I keep
Genesis 16 or something like that. But yes, it's in the early part. But the point is, it's important to know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're. So you're saying as a Christian, if I believe in Jesus, I have to support the modern state of Israel.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm explaining for me what my motivation is.
But okay, so I'm just trying to understand. You said God tells you to support the modern state of Israel in the Bible, in some place in the Bible that you heard about, but you don't know where it is. That's your theology.
You're going back. Am I a sleazy line again? I mean,
if you accuse me of anti-Semitism, again, I will say that. But I don't think you will.
Try to be.
I mean, again, like Ted Cruz is being pretty sleazy here. Listen, theology. I don't really care about any of this shit. Funding Israel benefit the U.S.
And because there's a very real possibility they would use a nuclear weapon. So you want to ask how does supporting Israel benefit us? Right now, this tiny little country, the size of the state of New Jersey, is fighting our enemies for us and taking out their top military leadership and trying to take out their nuclear capacity. That makes America much safer.
So the president has said repeatedly Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and he will do whatever it takes to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. He said that like 100 times. He clearly means it. I think he will use force to effect that if he feels he has to. I think he's been really clear about that. I don't know, but it seems that way. Do you feel it? Do you think that's correct?
Whether he would use force to stop a nuclear weapon, I think he has put that option on the table.
He certainly suggested. I literally know what's going to happen, but just reading his statements, he's made that really clear.
So what he has been very clear about, and I spoke with the president on Sunday, is he has been very clear to Iran that if they attack U.S. servicemen and women, there will be real consequences and I think very serious military.
By the way, this is a sidebar, but I just can't resist. The Prime Minister of Israel said that Iran tried to assassinate Donald Trump twice.
Yeah, I read your newsletter this morning, and
but do you believe that's true?
Again, I think it was sort of a word game. What is true is Iran is trying to assassinate Donald J. Trump, and they've hired hitmen. Now, you pointed out...
No, he said that they had tried twice to kill him, and I don't know that... I don't have any evidence that's true, but I sort of wonder if that is true. Why aren't we worth them already?
Okay. And I read your newsletter this morning, and I thought it was...
Yeah, this is a complete fucking conspiracy that these two are probably going to fucking argue about. Again, like, there's not really much that can be said here, because, again, these are just untenable positions that these idiots are fucking trying to defend. So it's just like, I don't know, whatever. Because the thing is that, like, was it the Iranians that hired the two fucking dudes who tried to kill Donald Trump? There's no evidence to suggest that. And they were, like, registered Republicans. So, like, Republicans hired by the Iranians to kill the president? Seems a little weird.
It was playing word games to draw a political point.
How's that a word game? It's my president. And
can I tell you?
Yeah, please.
Okay. You rightly pointed out there's no evidence that this clown in Butler, Pennsylvania, who shot the president was working for the Iranians. I don't think he was. There's no evidence of that. Although I would like to know more about who he was and what's going on. But I don't find it plausible that he was working for the Iranians. So, was that caused by the Iranians? No. But what is true, and what your newsletter didn't acknowledge, is it true or false that Iran is currently trying to murder Donald J. Trump and has paid hitmen to do so?
Well, that's the question, and I don't know the Butler, Pennsylvania thing. Let's put that aside. I don't know.
So now you misspoke.
Yeah, again, I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that the Iranians have hired fucking hitmen to try to kill Donald. It's silly.
When he said those two assassinations were because of Iran, but what he was saying that is right is they're actively trying to murder Donald J. Trump.
Is there? Okay, so you're aware of a plot to kill Trump?
Yes, that Iran is paying for. And by the way,
when?
It has been over the last, I'd say, 18 months to 2 years.
In the United States?
In the United States, yes. And let me put out.
Has anyone been arrested?
For the Trump attempted assassination, no, but they are also actively paying Iranian hitmen to murder Mike Pompeo when he was President Trump's first Secretary of State, the first term rather. John Bolton, when John Bolton was National Security Advisor to President Trump, and a guy named Brian Hook, who was Assistant Secretary of State.
Right.
During the Biden administration.
Can we go back to Donald Trump because he's the president? No, it's a big deal. What do you mean? When no one has been arrested for these assassination attempts on Trump?
Yes.
They've hired hitmen. How do we know that?
All right, let me break it down. People have been arrested. So the reason I brought up Pompeo, Bolton, and Hook, who are under active assassination attempts because of their service.
Like I said, this is just like, it's a completely untenable position here from Ted Cruz. That's the fucking thing. He can't defend this because it's stupid.
The first Trump administration under the Biden.
Well, they say that. I've never seen any evidence of it.
Can I give you the evidence?
Well, let's just stick with Trump.
No, because these are interrelated. So let me make a blank point. Under the Biden administration, the State Department was spending $2 million a month providing security for Pompeo, Bolton, and Hook. And they did arrest Iranian hitmen at John Bolton's apartment complex who rented, I think, the apartment next to him and were actively trying to assassinate him, and they went and arrested them. So yes, they caught Iranian hitmen. Now, it so happens Iran's not very good at it. And so they are actively trying. In fact,
but what about Trump? He's the president. If there's a plot to kill Trump by the Iranians,
okay, so you dispute that the Iranians are trying to kill Trump?
Of course. I mean, that's the most important question. The Prime Minister of Israel just said there have been 2 assassination attempts against Donald Trump by the Iranians. And I think it's a very fair question. Maybe you disagree to ask, what are you talking about?
Okay. And I agree with you that he misspoke.
So there weren't those 2 attempts?
There were 2 attempts, but the clown in Butler, Pennsylvania, and the other guy on the golf course
were
not
not the 2
connected to the
attempts.
Iranians. That's the part that he misspoke. But by the way, when you speak all the time, occasionally, what he said that was accurate is that Iran is actively trying to murder Donald J. Trump and his paid hitmen.
Okay, but right, okay, that's fine.
And he was conflating it with the 2 attempts.
I understand. But I just want to pull that thread because it's so important. I voted for Donald Trump. I campaigned for Donald Trump. He's our president. And we're on the cusp of a war. So if there's evidence that Iran paid hitmen to kill Donald Trump and is currently doing that, what are you even talking? I've never heard that before.
Okay.
Where's the evidence? Who are these people? Why haven't they been arrested? Why are we not?
See, the problem is that they're going based off of the ramblings of a very old man. A paranoid, very old man.
Iran?
That's a great question to ask.
How do you know that that's true?
We know that it's true because we have been told that by the military and our intelligence community for the last 2 years.
We meaning who?
Congress has in the public. I mean, we have multiple testimonies. I can send you testimony.
Do we know the names of the people or where this happened or what they tried to do to kill Trump?
We do not. We have not apprehended an Iranian hitman trying to kill him. We know that Iran is trying to do so.
In the United States?
Okay, so apparently they haven't apprehended people, but they've arrested some people, but they haven't this is what I mean. It's a conspiracy theory. It's just complete schizo nonsense. It's untenable fucking position because Ted Cruz is defending the untenable position of being in support of the Israeli attacks on Iran. That's the whole fucking through line because again, he just wants to get more fucking AIPAC money and MIC money. That's the whole point.
Yes, and by the way, like Iran...
This just seems like a huge headline, and you're acting like everyone knows this. I didn't know that.
Iran put out a whole video about murdering Trump.
Right, but I've never heard evidence that there are hitmen in the United States. I mean, trying to kill Trump right now, we should have a nationwide dragnet on this, and we should attack Iran immediately if that's true. Don't you think?
No.
But they're trying to assassinate our president?
They have been for 2 years.
They are in a war with them.
Well, we are trying to...
Why don't we just nuke Tehran if they're trying to murder our president? There's nothing that you could do that would be worse for the United States than murdering Trump. And I just don't understand why you're not calling for the use of nuclear weapons against the Ayatollah right now. I'm serious. If you really believe they're trying to murder
nuclear weapons,
whatever
part of the problem.
So you don't seem to take the allegation seriously. I do. If you believe they're trying to murder Trump, we need to stop what we're doing and punish them.
Can I ask something? I mean this sincerely. So, all right, 20 years ago, you were, I think it's fair to say, in the interventionist world, you were a vocal defender of the Iraq War.
I was a promoter of the Iraq War.
And you now, and I look, I think you think you were mistaken. I think you were mistaken. That's okay. Look, people change and learn, and that's part of the journey of being human. Your views have moved, though. In my view, they've gone way too far the other end. And so
I'm saying, hold on. Wait, this is one of the weirdest conversations I've ever had. I'm saying if it's true that Iran is trying to murder Trump, we need to move militarily against Iran immediately. That's not isolationism. That's a call to violence, which I'm calling for. If we believe that Iran is trying to murder our president, we need to strike Iran.
Okay, but isolation say things like, well, then just nuke them, which is what you just said. Just kind of
because I'm upset because I'm taking you seriously. You don't take your own statements seriously.
I take my statements very seriously.
So I've asked you, where's the evidence this is true? And you said they're trying to assassinate Brian Hook or something, which I'm against, by the way. I'm against hurting any American, period, no matter.
So you dispute that they're trying to murder Bolton?
I'm not disputing it at all.
They arrested hitmen with Bolton.
I don't know why that's even relevant. I'm asking about the president of the United States.
Wait, it's not relevant that Iran hired hitmen to murder cabinet members in Trump's administration. That doesn't go to.
I've already said that I'm totally opposed to that. It's awful. I am against killing anybody, actually, especially foreign government. Right. Sure. I'm asking about your allegation and the Prime Minister of Israel's allegation that Iran is trying to murder the president.
Killing terrorists is a good thing. Killing people who are trying to murder Americans is a good thing. Because if you're America first, you want to protect Americans. So killing Osama bin Laden was a fantastic.
But you don't really believe that they're trying to murder Trump, or
yes, I do. Yes,
then why are you calling for military action against Iran right now?
Because they're not very effective. In terms of hitmen, their hitmen are not very effective. I do think.
So they're hitmen, but not the bad kind, the efficient kind.
No,
what are you saying?
They're a weak country who is on its knees.
Yeah, I don't know. They're just gonna keep going back and forth on this fucking stupid bullshit. I think we can just skip probably more forward. Or it really isn't. I don't think I care about that. What happens next in Iran? The efficacy of Iranian fucking hit. I don't give a shit about any of that.
Regime change. That's a pretty good example of why I'm for regime change.
Okay, so you're saying we should just go in and take out the government of Iran? Why would we outsource it to Israel if they're trying to murder our president? Okay, you sound like the isolationist.
What I'm saying on any military judgment is there needs to be a cost-benefit analysis of what are the risks versus what are the.
Because again, it's like I've been saying, Ted Cruz is trying to defend an untenable position. That's what he's trying to do. It's complete fucking nonsense. Let's go to the fucking probably more infamous fucking bit, and then we're going to sort of talk about how Tucker Carlson is no different than fucking Ted Cruz, but instead of Israeli interests, it's Russian interests.
I would use economic sanctions and I would use moral suasion to try to effectuate.
If you topple the regime by whatever means, what happens then? How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population
at all.
No, I don't know the population.
You know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah.
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about the
country. What's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay,
you don't know anything about Iran. So
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government. You don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it's a good idea to kill General Soleimani.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. If you really
we
believe
are
that.
carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because.
That's yeah. You are breaking news there. Interesting. So, it really is the U.S.-Israeli-Iranian war. Let's be honest here at this fucking point. The stupid hypotheticals. Yeah. Whoa, crazy. Who would have thought that the U.S. supplying all the weapons and everything to the Israelis want to do like a stupid, idiotic... Because again, I've talked about this before. The only reason why Netanyahu is doing any of this is because he wants to maintain his own fucking war cabinet. That's it. I don't know if these guys ever go into that. Ted Cruz sure as fuck is not going to go into that. Neither is fucking Tucker Carlson. The only reason why Netanyahu's going ahead with any of this nonsense is because a forever war is beneficial to Netanyahu, so he can maintain the war cabinet for as long as possible. That's why he's doing it. He wants it to be maintained because if he doesn't maintain it, because quick reminder, there was a very slim vote that barely failed in the Knesset, which would have caused the collapse of the Knesset and would have forced there to be, elections within Israel, which Netanyahu is more than likely going to lose. And as a byproduct, as a result of that, Netanyahu needs to keep the war cabinet going for as long as possible in order to be able to stay in power until, he probably dies. Because, again, there's corruption charges that are currently swirling around Netanyahu, and, he doesn't want to go to jail for the rest of his life. That is why. And we have stooges like Ted Cruz, like I've been saying, defending a completely untenable position, because that's what it is. We'll get to Tucker Carlson also trying to defend completely also untenable fucking positions. Because again, there are no angels in this particular conversation. Both of them are charlatans.
Because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
We're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting Israel.
You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay, we are not bombing them. Oh, okay. Israel is bombing them. Hey, why did you do this tonight? Oh, okay.
I mean, he's technically not wrong, However, it rings a little hollow considering the fact that Israel uses a lot of American weapons. So, So, technically speaking, you can make the fucking argument that it is the Americans by proxy that are bombing Iran because the Israelis are using their weapons. Same argument with Yemen, with the Saudi Arabian coalition when they attacked Yemen, when they attacked the fucking Houthis. They primarily used American weapons. Same thing with the Israelis currently bombing all the people that they're currently bombing, whether it be the Houthis, the Palestinians, the Hezbollah, Lebanon, and, people in Syria. They're doing that with American-made weapons, which means, essentially, by proxy, America is also bombing those people. We can make the exact same arguments about the Russians as well. All the Russian military contractors that fucking work in all of those different fucking towns, they use Russian weapons, or different African nations, they use fucking weapons. Wagner, for example, quite literally directly reported to Putin, right? Yevgeny Prigozhin reported directly to Putin, so you can say that, the Russians directly had a hand in the playing of, the exploitation of a bunch of different African nations through military force. Now, they tried to use the private military contractors as a sort of shield, as a way to say actually no, we have some plausible deniability here, but no, Prigozhin directly reported to Putin. It's not ridiculous to fucking say. So, it's not any different from when the US does, it's not any different from when any fucking nation state sells weapons to a different fucking poorer nation in order to do, regime change or do proxy wars in, their stead.
What do you mean? Because this is super high-stakes stuff. This is a huge country that borders a lot of other important countries all over the world. Energy comes from there.
So
you don't want another disaster. You don't want
the Ayatollah refers to Israel as the little state and America as the great state. Do you believe him? When he says it's the great state, do you think if the Ayatollah could murder both of us right now, he would? I do. I believe it.
Okay, I assume no good faith on the part of the Ayatollah.
No,
and if your implication is some pro-Ayatollah or something.
No, it's not good faith. It's that...
Just saying, you're a lawmaker, you're a powerful person in Washington. This is the most powerful country in the world. If you're calling for toppling a government, it's incumbent on you to know something about the country and to think through the consequences of that. And you haven't, and you don't. And I'm saying that's
okay, you are... You engage in reckless rhetoric with no facts. And to be clear,
I'm not calling you the overthrow of the government. You are.
put out a newsletter attacking Donald Trump and calling him complicit.
I've never attacked Donald Trump.
Yes, you have.
Now Ted Cruz is gonna try to deflect and talk about like Trump's response, blah 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 blah. Yeah. Let's get to the Russia-Ukraine stuff. I don't care about like Trump's response.
I don't even know what you're talking about. Jimmy Carter? So what century is this? I am the product of the last 25 years watching carefully, being involved in the periphery, and I see an unending string of foreign policy disasters that have impoverished and hurt.
Unending string.
So unending string. They would include Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, and our inability to stop the Houthis, by the way, in Yemen, which exposes us as weak, and I grieve over that. So these are failures. You helped preside over some of them as a member of the Senate.
What failures, foreign policy failures have I presided over?
Well, we were unable to beat Russia in the war that you supported against Russia. You've been spending the last 3 years telling us that Vladimir Putin is evil and we're going to beat him with other people's children, and 1 million of those kids are now dead. You've never apologized for that. That was a
by the way, look, the level of number of...
First off, that's not an accurate sort of casualty count again. So Tucker Carlson's trying to do the same with waffly thing, because he's doing the same thing that Ted Cruz is doing right now. Sort of throwing out just random positions and like questions to try to attack Ted Cruz with now, right? He is now starting to get defensive because Tucker Carlson supports the Russians because he gets Russian fucking money. We all know the meme, right? Look at the meme, right? Tucker Carlson, what? Tucker Carlson, Russian grocery store. Thank you. We know the meme.
So a long-standing feature, maybe the longest-standing feature of Cold War propaganda in the West was the Soviet grocery store. No products, no choices, shoddily made things, and it wasn't actually propaganda, it was real. And you can look up pictures on the internet if you want.
That was, again, not like Tucker Carlson is lying here, and same with the propagandists. They're both lying there. That was not the Soviet Union at that point. That was after the Soviet Union fucking collapsed and became the Republic of Russia, right? That would have been in 1992, 1993, after the policy of the shock therapy happened, hyperinflation, and, well, there was no products within Russia, right, as a result. That didn't last very long in particular, right? It lasted for about 1 or 2 years till the... Nah, not 1 or 2 years. It lasted for a little while, but eventually it just went back to fucking normal once the transition from the Soviet economy. I'm not going to call it communist economy because it's not, or socialist or even, right? Like, the Soviet fucking economy to a capitalist system occurred.
So we thought it'd be interesting to take a look at a contemporary, modern-day, 2024 Russian grocery store 2 years into sanctions. There we go. So I guess you put in 10 rubles here, and you get it back when you put the cart back. So it's free, but there's an incentive to return it and not just bring it to your homeless encampment. Okay, this is the...
That is so fucking funny that he's saying that. I believe this... I saw TYT pop up there real quick. I believe this dude's fucking using TYT's footage, right? To play, like... Again, the only reason why... Like, a ton of other grocery stores do this exact same thing. This isn't a Russia-specific thing, Tucker Carlson. He's doing this because he's a paid propagandist.
Cart escalator. This is designed, I'm figuring this out now, where the wheels don't move, they lock on the grocery cart escalator. Look, Ma, no hands. Retail placement here is a little bit different. So it's like walking through Macy's to get to Whole Foods. Okay, we've gone through the perfume section to get to the grocery store. So we're going to try and buy what a family of 4 would buy every week, and we're going to see what the selection is, and we're going to see what it costs. Now, Russia is famous for its bread, which is one thing I can assess pretty well. The low-carb lifestyle is not swept Russia. Thank heaven, because look at that. It's fresh, too. Look at that. Oh, come on. Unicorn and mini mills. All right.
This man has never gone grocery shopping in his life. People are probably looking at him and be like, what the fuck is up with this weirdo? The camera sniffing some bread.
Some kind of Russian wheat cookies. We need coffee.
Russia is a bread basket, you fucking dumbass. Like, yeah, they have a lot of wheat-based products. Stupid.
Don't we? Yeah. I don't know if this is sugar or flour, to be honest with you, but it looks like a staple, so we should get it. It's a very good-looking package. It's got to be flour, right? And this is Russian wine. It's from Crimea, which not only has the warm water naval base, but also is the source of most of the grapes in this part of Russia for wine. So it's apparently pretty good. Cheese puffs. You check out a grocery store, and you've got gum, razor blades, and candy. Actually, they hide the razor blades because we steal them. But these are all seem to be Western products. Mars.
Ah, yes, we're doing the like stupid, dumbass, like callousness of poor people. That, yeah, they just constantly steal the razor blades. Yeah, because the store is really going to give a shit about, like, razor blades being fucking stolen. No, it's all fucking security theater bullshit. That's why all that fucking locking up bullshit fucking happens. Because, again, why do people even steal the razor blades to begin with? Or steal these basic necessities to begin with? Because they don't have any fucking money. They have no fucking money to be able to buy those. It's either pay your bills, your car, your insurance, in order to be able to get to your job, in order to be able to pay your fucking rent, bills, and insurance for your fucking car and everything that you need to get to your fucking job. Whoa, crazy. Who would have thought that such a thing could be conceivable? But Tucker Carlson doesn't understand these things, of course. But all that besides, like, you know, all the stuff that I'm currently saying right now, the issue should be fairly fucking obvious. Okay, the reason why the shit is happening with people stealing basic necessities in crazy the United States of America is because people don't have any fucking money to be able to buy stuff. That's the problem. But is Tucker Carlson going to do anything about that? No.
Twix, Snickers, Milky Way, Bounty, Gillette, Paul's Cough Drops, Mentos. It's pretty non-sanctioned to me, but what do I know? I went from amused to legitimately angry. So we were guessing what this would cost. Everybody here from the United States buys groceries, and we didn't pay any attention to costs. We were just putting in the cart what we would actually eat over a week. And we all came in around $400, about $400. It was $104 US.
Listen to the tone shift. The tone shift in the music. We're going to start.
I went from amused to legitimately angry. So we were guessing what this would cost. Everybody here from the United States buys groceries, and we didn't pay any attention to costs. We were just putting in the cart what we would actually eat over a week. And we all came in around $400.
Listen to that shift in tone of the music. Listen to that shift in tone. Tucker Carlson's trying to be very fucking sleazy with the propaganda that he's about to push here.
$400. It was $104 US here. And that's when you start to realize that
So, why don't we take a look at the average monthly income of a Russian? So what? That was about not even like a halfway full cart. We've seen the contents of the cart, right? Like right around here. This cart's barely a third full, okay? And it's supposed to feed a family of 4 for a week. And he's going to talk about how it costed... Let's see, we can get to the cost here.
Me, but what do I know? I went from amused to legitimately angry. So we were guessing...
Wow, that's a very full-looking fucking line of groceries there.
What this would cost. Everybody here from the United States buys groceries, and we didn't pay any attention to costs. We were just putting in the cart what we would actually eat over a week. And we all came in around $400, about $400. It was $104 US here. And that's what...
So $104 US here. Immediately, here's the immediate thing. The reason why it costs less money, and this is like Tucker Carlson's, he barely understands how the economy works, how currency exchange works. The US dollar is significantly stronger than that of the ruble. Much, much stronger than that. Fucking Americans can afford easily to be able to buy their groceries in comparison to Russia, in terms of like weekly groceries. It's not a problem for them. Again, like, what was it? He spent about 9,500 rubles. Average monthly income for Russian citizens. Because keep in mind, the Russian ruble is quite weak. Why do you think they want a bunch of rich American expats to move there specifically? Specifically, very rich conservative expats. They want them to move there so they can take their American dollars and spend it in Russia to help juice up their fucking economy because of how weak their dollar is in comparison. America is the global reserve currency after all, right? Any country that has a lot of American dollars is going to significantly benefit financially and economically because of the fact that they can use those as leverage in negotiations with other countries. The average monthly income for a Russian citizen varies greatly, but generally ranges from 40,000 to 70,000 rubles, approximately $440 to $780 USD. And he just spent allegedly like about a quarter of that in terms of 1 week of food. A quarter to about an eighth. Average monthly and average annual salaries of Russia in 2025. The average monthly salary of Russia is about 104,000 rubles, about $1,200 US. And this dude is spending about 8% of that on just 1 week's worth of food. Tucker, I don't know if you know this, but there are 4 weeks in a month. You're basically saying that you'd have to spend about a third of a fucking monthly budget on food alone in Russia? Not to mention, Russia has a lot of the same problems as the US, for example, right? They still have to pay bills for rent. They have to pay for fucking utilities. They have to pay for, other bills that they probably have. Insurance, vehicles. Crazy. Because I don't know if like how good like Russian public transportation. It's probably better than probably a lot of Western public transportation, but I don't think it's probably all that good. That's the fucking issue that's being raised here. You're spending 9,500 rubles for people whose sort of average fucking income is this. The average, like, if we do this, okay, average annual salary. So what? Annual gets to about 14,000 USD. The average annual income for American citizens is significantly higher. Much higher. Average monthly income for an American citizen varies widely, but it generally comes to around $5,000. That is 4 times more in comparison to what the average Russian gets. Like even here, median weekly personal income of $1,100. That is about the same as what about the same as about what is generated in a week for an American citizen, because again, their economy is stronger. They can afford to pay their workers more fucking money. Or more like they're not funneling most of their money for fucking stupid military adventurism and other military projects. Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. Tucker Carlson's never going to fucking mention any of that stuff. This is why people thinks he's a fucking stooge for the Russians. And he's now going to go into like a whole song and dance, talk about how like Americans can't really afford much of anything. That is true, but the problem is that Russians can afford much, much less. They are significantly poor in comparison to your average American citizen. This is a lot of money in comparison to what an average, like, I think it's even been said before that this amount that Tucker Carlson just paid for groceries right here, which is supposed to be only for about a week, is more than what most Russians would pay for groceries for about a month. So it is true. American citizens, again, it is difficult for them to be able to afford basic necessities. But the reason for that is because of all the other fucking expensive that Americans are forced to have to pay for. They have to pay for a car. They have to pay for gas for the car. They have to pay for insurance for the car. They have to pay for rent. They have to pay for utilities. They have to pay for other bills as well. They have to pay for fucking goddamn medical expenditures. But Tucker Carlson, the problem with that is that it's because all of those things are privatized. Similar in Russia. But in Russia, it's much worse because the country is 10 times fucking poorer and people have a lot less money in order to be able to spend on, well, your sort of like more callous, disregard that you even admitted to yourself here.
You start to realize that ideology maybe doesn't matter as much as you thought. Corruption. If you take people's standard of living and you tank it through filth and crime and inflation, and they literally can't buy the groceries they want, at that point, maybe it matters less what you say, whether you're a good person or a bad person.
Yeah, dude, because that's also much better in fucking Russia, dude. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Filth and crime and stuff like that? There's a ton of crime that constantly happens in Russia because everyone there is poor as fuck. Like, what do you mean? You're in fucking Moscow. Dude, you want to go out beyond the fucking Ural Mountains? Hoo-hoo, you want to see some fucking, like, real fucking poverty? Some fucking third world tier shit? Get out of fucking Moscow and fucking St. Petersburg, and then you'll see some real fucking Russian poverty. In most parts of fucking Russia, they don't have running water or electricity. It is that bad.
You're wrecking people's lives in their country, and that's what our leaders have done to us. And coming to a Russian grocery store, the heart of evil, and seeing what things cost and how people live, it will radicalize you against our leaders.
Like I said before, the average income of the Russians is 4 times smaller in comparison to the average monthly fucking income of American citizens. You're lying, Tucker. You're full of it.
Falsehoods you lay out just in one statement are rather...
You haven't supported the war against Russia?
Are rather stunning. So, the war against Russia was caused, which I had explained in great detail, by Joe Biden's weakness.
But you supported the war.
If you want to talk, we can talk Russia and Ukraine. I'm happy to talk about it.
Okay, that's not the reason why, but sure, whatever.
Do you think that's been a success?
No, it's been an absolute disaster.
Okay, but you supported it. Shouldn't you apologize?
No, you should apologize. I'm not going to engage in the demanding of apologies. So
that's my point. Is all these failures never says I'm sorry.
Or do you just throw out, like, if you want to talk, we can talk.
Okay, I do. I want to know why that seems like a true disaster for the United States. You have supported it.
Do you believe Joe Biden's weakness caused the war in Ukraine?
I think Joe Biden's aggression caused it.
His aggression? What aggression?
He demanded that Ukraine join NATO. How does that help the United States?
That is a lie. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, Joe Biden needs to fucking demanded for Ukraine's to join in NATO. That's not the reason why it was happened. Again, like I said before, in 2014, whoa, crazy. They annexed Crimea. That's when the war actually fucking started, and they helped supply a bunch of weapons to the separatist movements. Crazy. And then the Russians themselves justified an attack. But again, Tucker Carlson's never going to fucking admit to that because, again, he's paid by the fucking Russians. And Ted Cruz is running with a, propagandistic line that was given to him by the Trump administration.
It's a terrible idea, and I have vigorously opposed Ukraine joining NATO.
Okay, so that's what caused the war.
No, it's not.
Okay,
Do you want to know what caused the war? Like, you do the dismissive. You're not actually interested in facts. You're like, okay.
Okay, tell me. It seems super obvious. You're absolutely right, and I'm sorry. That is a take of mine that is wrong, and I mean this with sincerity. I'm sorry to do that to you. I just think it seems so obvious that sending Kamala Harris to the NATO Security Conference to say you're going to join NATO is what triggered the invasion days later.
Okay, so this will take a few minutes to lay out because it's complicated, but I think the facts matter. I think two things caused the war in Ukraine. Number one, I think Biden's incredible weakness and the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. I believe we need to leave Afghanistan, but not with the incompetence that led to 13 servicemen and women being murdered.
Again, who was the one that that's not the reasoning why you're fucking stupid, but whatever. It's just an idiotic conspiracy theory. That's not the reason why. You were the one, like, Donald Trump was the one who fucking laid out all the cards to the Taliban saying, like, yeah, we're gonna leave Afghanistan, we're leaving. So the Taliban knew that. They knew what the intentions of the U.S. were. And so the Taliban were able to prepare for that because they knew of how, how fucking inherently corrupt the fucking ANA was. That's not the reasoning as to why Russia decided to go ahead with the fucking invasion. It wasn't because of the pullout of Afghanistan. It's stupid.
By terrorists there. The way Biden did that was disastrous, and I think our enemies looked to the commander-in-chief and said, this president is weak. And when that withdrawal was so disastrous, I said publicly at the time, the chances of Putin invading Ukraine have just risen tenfold.
Right.
But secondly, and this is critically
I agree, that was awful, the withdrawal.
And it was a major cause of, our enemies all said, hey, this president...
Hey, by the way, fucking isolationist Tucker Carlson saying that, the pullout was very, very bad. Of course the pullout was going to be fucking bad out of Afghanistan. It was always going to be a fucking disastrous shit show. Like I said before, these two they don't care about that. They were okay with the Americans staying permanently in Afghanistan because it would have killed a bunch of brown people, okay? Because they're racists. So, that's why.
...is weak. And so it invited... And by the way, look, I despise war, and I think weakness and isolationism produces war because it invites aggression from our bad guys. It's why I agree with Ronald Reagan's peace through strength. The best way you avoid war is being strong enough that your enemies don't want to mess with you. But let's get back to Ukraine and Russia. Look, Putin didn't wake up 2 years ago and decided he wanted to invade Ukraine. He's wanted to invade Ukraine for decades. Putin has referred to the collapse of the Soviet Union as, quote, the greatest geopolitical disaster of the 20th century. And Putin has long been explicit. His desire is to reassemble the old Soviet Union, in fact, reassemble the Russian Empire that was even bigger than that. If you want to reassemble the Soviet Union, the natural place to start is Ukraine.
Do you really believe that Putin has territorial designs on Eastern Europe?
Yes.
What countries?
He has said that you can go and read his... Hold on. I don't want to lose the narrative of what happened, so we can go back and do that, but I don't want to lose telling the story first. So let me explain this, and then if you want to go back, we can take all sorts of digressions, but just give me a couple of minutes to lay out the facts of what happened. He has wanted to invade Ukraine a long time, and he's done it before. In 2014, he invaded Ukraine, invaded Crimea. When Barack Obama was president, he invaded the southern portion. He did not invade the rest of the country. Why? And the reason is, the principal source of revenue for Russia is oil and gas, and the natural gas pipelines run right through the country of Ukraine, and he didn't want to jeopardize his ability to get gas to Europe. Right. So, in 2015, Putin started a project called Nord Stream 2.
Did anything happen in 2014?
In terms of what?
Wasn't there a coup in Ukraine run by the Obama administration?
Let me finish.
Okay, so Tucker Carlson is going, again, with the lie that Euromaidan was a coup. It wasn't, of course. Hey, Marxist-Leninists, you people fucking agree mostly with Tucker Carlson. Very, very fucking funny. But whatever. The charlatans that fucking push that the Euromaidan was a fucking coup. It's complete nonsense. The only reason why Tucker Carlson is fucking throwing that shit out there is to try to, again, deflect and move the fucking goalposts. That's why he was doing that. There's no evidence to suggest that the CIA fomented a coup through Euromaidan. That was a successful popular revolution. Quite literally, that is a popular revolution that happened in Ukraine. But whatever, very cool, very good.
Finish telling, I told you, we'll take lots of digressions in a second. Let me finish telling the narrative. 2015, Putin began building Nord Stream 2. Nord Stream 2 is an undersea pipeline that runs from Russia to Germany. The entire purpose of Nord Stream 2 is when it was completed and turned on, it would let Russia circumvent Ukraine and get its gas straight to Europe. In 2019, Nord Stream 2 was almost complete, and the conventional wisdom in Washington was, this is terrible, but there's nothing we can do about it. I didn't believe that. So I drafted sanctions legislation that was targeted to stop the pipeline. My legislation passed the Senate with overwhelming bipartisan support. It passed the House, and Donald Trump signed it into law.
Why wouldn't you want Germany to have cheap energy?
Because it empowers Russia, and I believe in making our enemies weaker and our friends stronger.
Has blowing up Nord Stream made Germany stronger?
Not being dependent on Russia has made Germany stronger.
Do you think Germany is stronger now than it was 4 years ago?
I think not being dependent on Russia. Germany has all sorts of problems, and many of them are domestic to their own politics. Hold on, let me finish. I'm trying to...
No, but what you're saying, Germany seems so much weaker now that its energy costs have spiked and the manufacturing sector is collapsing because of that.
Let me finish. I'm focused on America's interest. I don't...
Is that even true, by the way? Is there any evidence of that? Again, The only reason why Tucker Carlson is throwing this stuff out there is to try to like epically debunk what Ted Cruz is technically saying here, but like it's stupid. Like there's no evidence to say any of this because again, the only reason why Tucker Carlson is saying this shit is because he is a stooge for Russia. We've seen the fucking whole grocery store bit. He is paid for by the Russians.
I want Russia stronger because I believe Russia's our enemy. You and I disagree on that. We can talk about that. But I want our enemies weaker. I don't want to go to war with Russia, but I want our enemies weaker. I don't want Europe dependent on Russia. I don't want Putin rich with oil and gas revenues and able to invest in his military and pose a threat to America. So the sanctions legislation I authored, it passed. Putin stopped building Nord Stream 2 literally the day that President Trump signed my sanctions legislation into law. He signed it, if I remember right, at 7 p.m. on a Thursday. Putin stopped construction at 6:45 p.m. So the sanctions legislation worked, and it killed the pipeline. The pipeline lay dormant for over a year, just a hunk of metal at the bottom of the ocean. Joe Biden came into office. He was sworn in on January 20th, 2021. Putin resumed deep-sea construction of Nord Stream 2 4 days later, January 24th. He did so because Biden had foreshadowed weakness on this issue. That foreshadowing was accurate because several months later, Biden formally waived the sanctions on Nord Stream 2 and let Putin complete the pipeline. In January of 2022, I forced a vote on the Senate floor to reimpose sanctions on Nord Stream 2. The week of the vote, President Zelensky in Ukraine publicly called on the Senate, please pass this sanctions legislation. It is the last best hope of stopping Russia from invading Ukraine. At the same time, the government of Poland put out a formal statement from the foreign ministry to the Senate, calling on the Senate to pass my sanctions legislation and said, if you do not, Putin will invade Ukraine. The day of the vote, Joe Biden came to Capitol Hill. It's the first time in his presidency he had done that. He went to the Democrat senators' lunch, and he personally lobbied them on this issue. Not any other issue. This was his number one issue. They came to lobby them on. They came out of that lunch. Every Democrat had voted with me twice against Nord Stream 2. 44 Democrats flipped their vote. They voted in favor of Russia, in favor of Putin, and 4 weeks later, Russia invaded Ukraine. That was the direct cause of the war, and if Trump had been president, there would be no war.
So may I ask, I, of course, disagree with your analysis completely, but I want to be respectful.
Okay, so tell me what you disagree with.
It's such a long conversation. I've spent the last couple.
Yeah, I also disagree with this analysis. No, it was gonna fucking happen inevitably. It's not because of anything Joe Biden did in particular. It's fucking silly and stupid.
Years on this, and I just respectfully disagree with your analysis, but I don't doubt your sincerity that you believe that Putin is our enemy, that Western Europe should not be allowed to use Russian energy. I mean, you seem to really believe these things. My question is about results, because I think it's relevant to what we're seeing now in Iran. You look back after having you personally voted to send billions and billions and billions of U.S. tax dollars to Zelensky to support his civil service and the war against Russia and all this stuff. Can you say that what you did worked?
So I can say what I did personally, sanctioning Nord Stream 2 worked and prevented a war, and if Trump had still been there, if the sanction had been in effect, there would be no war. I'm in favor of avoiding wars.
But once the war broke out, you voted to fund it to the tune of billions and billions and billions.
And to be clear,
and did that work?
Okay, to be clear, what I voted for the initial tranche of funding, and then I voted against the subsequent one. So it hasn't worked. So I've been in between. I haven't been on the full Ukraine, full-throated hawk side or the anti from day one. I voted for the initial tranche of funding because I wanted Russia to lose. I think the Biden administration administered it in a horrible way. I think they wasted a ton of money. And I think what they did was actually incoherent because they were funding both sides of the war. I was very vocal, and among other things, flooding 100
funding both sides of the war. What the fuck is Ted talking about here? Jesus Christ. Like it's two like idiotic schizos fucking arguing amongst themselves. It's silly.
$1 to Iran, which was used, among other things, to help the nuclear program, but also to make drones that Russia used to fight.
So here's my concern. I'm not going to defend the Biden administration. Really did a lot to wreck the United States.
Yeah, the most damaging
at the end, where we sit now, Russia is stronger. It's closely allied long-term with
I
China.
don't know that Russia's stronger. I don't think that's right. Okay.
I think it's pretty obvious that it is. But it's certainly not destroyed. And it's allied long-term with China.
Maybe. Look, there's no doubt Biden's foreign policy drove Russia into the arms of China, and that's concerning. Okay. They also have a long history.
That's not the reasoning why they've, like, the Chinese aren't big fans of the Russians in particular. They just have them sort of as, like, partners because it's partners of fucking convenience. That's why.
Western Europe is weaker and more in debt. The United States is weaker and much more in debt. Hold on. So we're agreeing. Here's my question. Have you questioned any of your previous assumptions? Did you play any role in this at all? Are you responsible at all?
Of course, and like you,
what have you learned?
Like you said you've changed your mind. Yeah, I voted for the first funding of the Ukraine war. I voted against every subsequent funding stream because it wasn't working. And I looked at what was happening and said, this is not working. And had the money been spent in an intelligent way and not...
Well, no, that's not the reason why. Like, I don't know what he means by spending in an intelligent way. Every fucking funding bill was sort of like accurately laid out. Tucker Carlson is against all funding because he wants the Russians to win because he is a stooge for Russia at this point. Like, we know this. Again, like, we've seen the fucking, like, come on. He's a stooge for the fucking Russians. Like, it's silly to say otherwise. The only reason why Ted Cruz is saying this is because he got new fucking marching orders from people. Because, again, Ted Cruz doesn't actually believe in anything. He'll say and do anything in order to maintain power because that's all he fucking cares about is just maintenance of his own power. So it's not about, like, you know, whatever, like, complete nonsense these morons are saying. They're both wrong on the starting of the fucking issue of the war. Every Ukrainian would disagree with both of them, but whatever. So far, it's mostly like just two schizos fighting one another. What about is Russia an enemy of the U.S.? What do we got here?
I was triggered when you called me names, and I'm triggered once again that you're calling me a Russia defender when in fact I'm defending Western Europe. And I don't think that
do you think Putin's our enemy?
Well, he's literally our enemy. You are funding a war against him.
Do you think he is our? No, you're saying we're his enemy. Do you think Putin is our enemy?
I think it is a tragedy that your policies, specifically yours, helped drive Putin into the arms of China, forming a bloc that's larger than us.
So you won't answer that question.
I don't. He is literally our enemy right now. That is a tragedy for the United States.
No, you're saying, but you won't say he is our enemy. Look,
No, in what sense? I don't want to be enemies with Russia. It doesn't help us at all. It may help some people in the United States, but in general...
By the way, this is the common through line of every fucking Russian propagandist. All of them say this. And he's being very, very defensive right now because, again, he gets paid for by the Russians, guys.
I don't want to be at war with Russia. I don't think it is in our interest to be at war with Russia.
With China. That is a disaster.
But listen, no doubt, and I want Russia and China attention. So
they've been fucking aligned with each other for a pretty long time at this point. Like, for a while. Like, since 2014, pretty much. Like, since before they, like, after they left, they got kicked out of the G8, they became aligned with the Chinese and started forming more closer relationships with them. Like, this isn't just like this wasn't like a Joe Biden thing in particular. It's stupid.
I agree with you there. But I think Putin is a KGB thug. I think he is a bad man. Now, I don't want to go to war with him over that, okay. but I'm not naive. And like, I watched
He's
your
a bad
episode.
man. He's a bad man. Okay.
Look, I watched your episode where you went to the Russian grocery store. And
was that disloyal, do you think?
It was just weird. It was like a promo video for Russia. And I don't understand. I'm not attacking you when I ask why, because I'm genuinely like, I don't get
when you call me this, you weren't attacking me, you were just noticing. No, but may I ask you a question? So here,
Notice.
Let me just answer yours by saying the United States, the Biden administration, with your helpful support, began a war on Russia in response to their invasion of Ukraine. And one of the things was they kicked Russia out of SWIFT, out of the international financial system. And my first response was this is going to really hurt the U.S. dollar, which it has. And I hope someday we can have a conversation about that. It's really, really hurt the one thing that we needed, which was to retain dollar supremacy. So I was interested in the economic conditions.
By the way, that's a reasonable point and a serious conversation.
I'm aware. And I can
agree with you. Like,
no, but I was accused of being. I think it's weird that you went to a Russian grocery store and said it was prosperous. No, my point is
it looked like
that those.
It looked like a commercial. Isn't this wonderful?
No, it was an argument against the efficacy of sanctions.
No, that's again, that's. And this is Ted Cruz now fucking calling out Tucker Carlson for exactly what he is. A fucking stooge for the Russians, because that's what it is. It's not the efficacy of fucking goddamn sanctions. You went to a grocery store, okay, in Moscow. Go to other parts of fucking Russia and see, like, how their fucking grocery stores are performing under the fucking sanctions. Or other fucking industries are performing under the fucking sanctions. We know that the Chinese have been sending a bunch of machine parts to the Russians so they can manufacture drones with them. We know this in order to get around the fucking sanctions. Same with the Iranians sending Shahed drones. Why do you think they keep attacking the Ukrainians with, whoa, crazy, a bunch of Iranian fucking equipment? We know. You're just saying this because you're a fucking stooge for Russia.
Sanctions against Russia, which you casually and enthusiastically imposed, scoring a little moral victory every time, had no material effect that helped the United States. Russia is backstopped by China, and when I recommend that you go there and see it, it is way nicer than Washington, D.C. Way nicer. To me, that's a tragedy. I was horrified and angry at my leaders, including you. It's like, I want to live in a country that's nice, with low food costs and no homeless people. I don't understand why that's too much to ask.
Okay. How? You were doing a propaganda tour and you just went into a grocery store. You didn't go around in Moscow at all. How many homeless people in Russia? The official number of homeless people, according to the 2021 census, is 11,285. While the official number is very low, some organizations estimate the number to be higher. Now, Nochelzaka, whatever, an organization that works with the homeless, estimates that there are significantly more homeless people in Russia, with some estimates reaching into the millions. For example, Nochelzaka, I don't know how to fucking pronounce this, reported in 2024 that there are around 2 million homeless people in Russia. Some attribute this increase to the war in Ukraine. Several factors contribute to the discrepancy between official and estimated numbers, including a lack of consistent data collection and the social stigma surrounding homelessness. Organizations like Nochelzaka are working to address both practical needs of homeless individuals and the social attitudes that perpetuate homelessness. So, again, you can't trust anything that comes from the Russians. They are constant fucking liars. Is Tucker Carlson going to argue because of the war that there's, less fucking homeless people? Quite literally, the military is a fucking poverty trap. They keep promising that they're going to pay people more money in order to be able to join the military, and that's what drives recruitment costs. Again, the only reason why fucking goddamn Tucker Carlson is not going to talk about any of this stuff is because of the fact that he is a stooge. He's a propagandist for the Russians.
Asks,
So do
instead
I.
I get worse with Iran. No, I just want lower food costs. How's that?
So look, it's a weird argument that you do often, which is, listen, things are crappy in America. Liberals have done bad things to America, so we shouldn't worry about
No,
any
not
of these
liberals. Republican senators who don't care about us. They're focused on other countries.
You wrote that
and our country is dying, and you don't care because you're focused on Iran or Putin.
So you believe that I don't care about America. I guess you believe Donald Trump doesn't either. Like nobody cares.
I believe that your focus is way too on other countries. It's way too focused outward. The money that you send abroad could be used here and should be.
What money did I send abroad? By the way, in fact, I agree with
Ukraine? You don't even know.
I emphatically agree with Donald Trump's, for example, dramatically slashing USAID. I think the only reason we should be deploying that is to benefit U.S. interest, national security interest, and keep Americans safe. And so,
how much did you vote to send to Ukraine?
Look, you're in about $80 billion.
$80 billion.
Yeah. So you're in. You love just giving these broad characterizations that are not accurate. I'm genuinely puzzled. Look, I don't want to go to war with Russia, but I don't think they're our friend. I think Putin.
I agree.
I think Putin is a murderer. I think he's a liar, and I think he does not wish well on America.
Okay.
And there's a difference between saying that, just like Reagan referred to the Soviet Union as an evil empire, and Putin was in the KGB. Look, my father was imprisoned and tortured in Cuba. I hate communists. It was actually Batista that tortured my dad. My aunt was imprisoned and tortured by Castro. I hate communists. I think communism is evil. And so I think there is a value to, there is nobody who stands up to communist China more in the Senate than I do.
Okay.
Because I think they're evil. Do I want to go to war with China? Of course not. That would be ridiculous, but I think we have all sorts of tools to stand up to our enemies. And I think China is engaged in a 1,000-year war against the United States.
Okay.
They're trying to
We're
defeat
so
us.
all over the map. We were family in prison in Cuba and China.
We love the 1,000-Year War. Top sheet, top sheet, top sheet, top sheet, top sheet, top sheet, top sheet.
I agree with you. I'm totally opposed to communism. Always have been. I don't think that Putin loves us. I'm distressed by the moral condition of most leaders around the world. Most of them, they all kill people. I'm against that. I'm just saying, I wish the focus here was more on
Can I say something? I actually don't agree with that statement. They all kill people. There's a moral relativism. So I don't think Donald Trump is a murderer. He doesn't kill people. We don't have
calling Donald Trump a murderer.
The glaze. Again, I think we're more or less just like.
You just said world leaders all kill people, and there's a moral relativism.
I'm hardly a moral relativist.
But you are. That statement was the
I'm
essence.
an anti-Semite, an isolationist, a moral relativist. Okay, no, I'm not.
Did you just say world leaders all kill people?
I'm saying I'm against killing people in general. And hyperventilating about how Putin was in the KGB or whatever. I just want to serve American interests, and pushing into China is not in our interest at all. And you helped do it, and you haven't apologized.
And by the way, you're the cheerleader. I helped drive him into China. It's a complete lie.
You funded the war against him.
No, I authored the legislation that shut down Nord Stream 2 that prevented the war. And if Trump had still been in the White House, we would have had the war. And look, the comment you made, the reason things like moral
Wait, if Trump was still in office, we would have had the war? Pepe, it's very true. Oh yeah, like he's been lying this whole time. We all know. Like the only reason why Tucker Carlson has the fucking goddamn positions that he has on Russia, Ukraine is because he's paid for by the Russians. Like again, Ted Cruz fucking called him out technically, like quite correctly on this, and we've been debunking some of his fucking bullshit. The average monthly income of an American citizen in comparison to that of the Russians is 4 times higher. Like the weekly full-time like fucking income of an American is about the same as the monthly income of a fucking Russian citizen. It's fucking silly, dude. Yeah, the Russians do have it bad, but Tucker Carlson wants to pretend that it's actually good. It's silly. I think we've pretty much fucking covered everything that we need to see here. The thing is quite literally, both of these fucking dudes are both complete charlatans, right? They don't believe in anything. It's very difficult to argue against a lot of their positions because of the things that they believe in are completely and utterly unfucking tenable. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Tucker Carlson, again, is okay with the invasion of Ukraine because he is a paid propagandist of the Russians. Again, like, this fucking video.
That's how I feel anyway. Radicalized.
Yeah, we know. You feel radicalized. Very cool and very good. Yeah, you feel fucking radicalized because of that fucking stupid shit, despite the fact that the Russians get paid 4 times less in comparison to fucking Americans. And in reality, if we want to talk about the homeless within Russia, there's probably millions of people. But again, Russia lies about literally fucking everything, so we don't actually know what the real numbers are. It's complete fucking nonsense. Oh, the official number is about 12,000, about 11,000 people. Yeah. Oh, we saw that part already, HA, okay? Like, yeah, a sly feline. I mean, he's not wrong, but the problem is so is Tucker Carlson. That fucking goddamn criticism rings rather hollow from Tucker fucking Carlson. And the problem is a lot of dumbass fucking lefties are going to defend Tucker Carlson when he himself, too, is also a complete liar and a charlatan. Okay? He does propaganda for the Russians. Ted Cruz is correct in calling out Tucker Carlson for that. He's obviously completely wrong about the basis for as to why the war in Ukraine obviously started. He is also a stooge completely for Israel, 1,000 fucking %. Because again, Ted Cruz is only willing to run with any fucking line that gets him more power, because he doesn't actually believe in anything. So that's cool. Yeah, no one likes to talk about the Russian weaponry that gets sent to the Israelis, or like the fact that, again, why are a lot of Israelis Russians? A particular the funny guy named Stalin is probably the main reason for us for that. But nice fucking meme. People are going to fucking praise Tucker Carlson for going as hard incredulously against Ted Cruz. Fucking Tucker Carlson doesn't agree with any of those people. He just wants to be a grifter and get more fucking Russian and Nazi money. That's all that Tucker Carlson fucking cares about. But honestly, I think the most important part is, despite the fact that these two are complete fucking paid charlatans and liars, is the fact that Tucker Carlson is the only kind of person who can hold people's feet to the fucking fire as a main byproduct of commodified fucking media. Media only cares about maintaining their fucking access in order to be able to make money, in order to be able to make their crazy profits. That's it. So they need to maintain their access so they can get their ratings so they can make money. And that's the only reason why a lot of independent media can hold like politicians feet more to the fire and whatnot. We know this. These two are complete charlatans and liars. They have both pretty much lied and not really believed in much anything throughout this entire fucking process. And the reason why it is as difficult and ridiculous to argue against what they're saying is because both of their positions are entirely untenable. They are indefensible and they are untenable. But Tucker Carlson's going to look better because of how much of a fucking sleazy fucking moron, Ted Cruz is. And how much worse Israel looks in comparison to the Russians in terms of, like, the Israeli blatant fucking belligerent aggression that they're having against, everyone in the fucking region. So, again, quick reminder, these two are both charlatans. They both don't believe in anything. They are complete liars and morons, and they don't believe in anything besides everything that they can do in order to maintain their own fucking power. Oh, yeah, 1000% Alex, that he masks his fucking Nazism here. Like, quite literally. We know who butters Tucker Carlson's bread. Same with fucking Ted Cruz. Evangelical Christians on one side, Nazis and Russian sycophants on the other side. So we all know what they fucking believe in all this. It's just complete utter fucking nonsense. And these two are just both grifters for different fucking empires that they fucking support and do propaganda for. They are both complete utter fucking charlatans.